Hey folks, what an exciting day. Wow, Bitcoin's finally making its big move now. But is it safe? Is this a fake out, another fake out? Could Bitcoin be faking us out, bull trap, and then pulling back? We've been waiting this day for a long time. Pablo have been giving you all these signals. Remember, Pablo told you guys in the last 2 weeks, the whales are buying. Told you guys the whale signal. Even told you guys about this signal that MicroStrategy made a new bounce, right? Didn't make a lower bottom, right? Even though Bitcoin made a lower bottom to 74K on 4th of April, right? MicroStrategy made a higher low and now it's bouncing. And look at this crucial area where MicroStrategy is at now. So as the theory I had has proven to be working out, that MicroStrategy seems to be this early leading indicator. Gold, also a good leading early indicator on where Bitcoin is going. And look at where Bitcoin is now, right? Bitcoin itself is, I'm going to show you something really cool on MicroStrategy in a second. When we turn the chart, go from natural to logarithmic, there's something pretty cool going on there as well. And Bitcoin, big resistance coming up. What's going to happen to Bitcoin? Is it going to reject off this? What happens next, right? Pablo has been very much spot on so far. My target for Bitcoin was always 73K. We hit 74K and now we're on the bounce, right? I've always said blow off top cannot be written off. It could still happen. At least we'll get a bounce to above 100K, but it's not going to be a straight line up. Before we get to all of that today, first let's answer the question of which crypto exchange does Pablo He-Man use? Well, Pablo uses this exchange that is non-KYC. That means you do not need to show your ID. Then that means the exchange can't even see who you are. Of course, then Americans can use it. So that means the IRS can't see you, the CIA can't see you, the FBI, CIA, nobody can see you. And I like him enough that I made this deal. This is the Pablo He-Man link, inviting my followers to join, up to $8,000 worth of newbie prizes just for joining and trading, right? Over 1.3 million users already. It's the largest non-KYC exchange in the world, fastest crypto exchange, growing exchange in the world as well. So the link is in the description below. If you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description below. But if you're watching on a different platform, such as this one, then just go to my profile page and then click on my stand link where all my deals are. And it'll be the first thing that comes up because this is a big deal, right, for Pablo. So let's get back to the markets. And remember, folks, only on the Pablo link, Okay, so Bitcoin, here we are. The crucial resistance, as I said in my last video, in a number of videos, was obviously 92K. Why is that? Because if 92K breaks down around here, I said, hey, we're headed to 73K. We didn't get there on the first drop. We got to 76K. I said it would be a B, C pattern, and we reject off this 88.6K area. And we rejected exactly off that blue line, which is around 88.6K, and went to 74K. So which is just 1K away from my target. And now Bitcoin broke through this resistance line before the stock market, right? Let's have a look at the stocks right now because they have been basically telling us where Bitcoin is going until now. So this is the SP 500, the most important one, for example, right? It's still below its trend line. And today, right, it made this bounce all the way up from 508 to 527. That's a big bounce. That's like 2.5% bounce. So therefore, Bitcoin is going for that 92K area again. NASDAQ 100, the QQQ. I'm showing this because this is quite important, right? Not quite there yet. We still could get a double bottom and then break up. So the reason why I showed this chart is because that this was just in my last video. Bitcoin is the orange line, of course, and the blue line is basically if you had a portfolio that was 100% NASDAQ 100 and 25% gold. And you can see then Bitcoin traces this blue line quite closely. What does that mean? That means Bitcoin basically behaves like it's 80% NASDAQ and 20% gold. I mean, if you put that in a portfolio, that would be 80% NASDAQ and 20% gold. Right now, remember folks, I told everyone that gold was taking off, and therefore Bitcoin would follow. So, oh, by the way, gold is doing a big topping tail here. Big topping tail. Looks like a blow off top. So if we just quickly put in BTC USD, then we can see that Bitcoin has quite often just just followed gold on the way up. So the we can see that, you know, this is gold, made the move first, Bitcoin's following, gold made the move up first. The only time, the exception was when Bitcoin was getting its ETF, gold made this move up, and then Bitcoin went to 100K, and now gold is making new all-time high, Bitcoin's following. I've been showing folks that chart saying that's one of the signals we should watch out for, that Bitcoin is gonna make a big move up. Now, another one is MicroStrategy, another signal I said to watch out for, because MicroStrategy made this bounce off a higher low, didn't go for a lower low, even though Bitcoin went to a lower low, which was at 74K. So now MicroStrategy shows strength, it's bouncing up, but look at this level. This is the 347, let's call it 347, and it's top of this channel, which I had drawn from my video like 2 or 3, like I think last week. So if MicroStrategy gets rejected, it will be here. If Bitcoin gets rejected, it will be at 92K. See how they all come together. See how everything aligns itself, right? Bitcoin bounces off the bottom at 74K. MicroStrategy bounces off triple bottom at 234 area. And Bitcoin comes to its resistance at 92K. MicroStrategy comes to its resistance at 345, sorry. So, but let me show you something really cool on MicroStrategy. Check this out. I didn't spot this until today, but I wish I did spot it 2 weeks ago, so I could have been more confident in my call. Now, this channel, look at how many times it's worked, right? We've had bounce, 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 pivot high, pivot high, pivot high, pivot high. And here, pivot low, pivot low, pivot low, pivot low, pivot low, pivot low, and then finally fake out. That's the day when I said, hey, it looks like MicroStrategy is closing on a higher bottom, therefore MicroStrategy is going up. And if MicroStrategy is going up for a big run, then Bitcoin should follow, because, you know, I spent a whole episode comparing the price moves of MicroStrategy as compared to Bitcoin. Okay, so, and another signal to keep in mind, right, is the whales are buying. So this I had shown to everyone, saying the whales are buying, and look at this, they've been buying since March. Like the whale signal was quite accurate. When they stopped buying in late May last year, Bitcoin dropped from 73K, like 71K, down to eventually 49K. And then they started buying, and not even heavy buying. Look at this. These are not heavy buying, right? From August to November. And that's when Bitcoin then took off to 108, 109K. And then when they sold again, that's where we should have paid attention in late December, and that's when Bitcoin topped at 109K. Now they started buying again. As I said, this was a big signal. Why? Because that's a lot of buying. That's a lot of buying compared to this area, right? That's a lot of buying. So this was a big whale signal, and I made those videos like in the last week or so. And for folks who have been watching, then you know that these are very bullish signals. So what should we watch out for here? There are a number of signals that I've just shown you guys that's pointing up. So my call was Bitcoin to hit 73K. It hit 74, close enough. And then I said Bitcoin is going for a big bounce. Even if 109K was the top, which I'm still not sure about, even if that was the top, then Bitcoin's still going for a big bounce. And I think that bounce would take us to above 100K. Now we're at 92. Now, and I still cannot rule out the possibility, the chance of a blow-off top. I said we still have a chance for that. even though things look really dark with the Trump tariffs, they still look really dark. Like the Trump tariff whole thing still looks pretty bad. But, I said it's still, even right now, or 2 weeks ago, I kept on saying, look, a blow off top is still possible. I wouldn't rule that out. And right now it looks like it's quite possible. But what's the one thing to watch out for? The one thing to watch out for, as have shown you guys, is that Bitcoin still reacts more like the NASDAQ than it is like gold. Maybe right now its personality, like someone who's got a double personality, maybe right now its personality has changed and it's more like 50% NASDAQ, 50% gold. I doubt it. I doubt that's the case. But let's say Bitcoin right now behaves 50% like the NASDAQ, 50% like gold, which is quite generous. And then if the NASDAQ was to go down and make a double bottom, then Bitcoin would still follow. So something like this. So if the NASDAQ was to, for example, and that would mean the SPIDER ETF as well. If the NASDAQ was to, if NASDAQ can go and break through here, then great, and goes to 502, then Bitcoin can easily get above 100K, I believe. But what if it does something like this, freaks everyone out, go to 400, and then break up, right? We always have to be prepared for all these eventualities because these are crazy times. If the NASDAQ was to do this, right, and then bounce up, then what happens to Bitcoin is that Bitcoin would do another pullback, a higher pullback, and let me just show you guys where it would go. In fact, it would look something like this. It would look something like another inverse head and shoulders. So then Bitcoin would come down and retest this area, this blue line, around 82, 81K, something like that, wick through. What I think could happen is Bitcoin wicks through here, could get to 94, 95, but not confirm. After a couple of days, come back down, especially if the NASDAQ goes down for a double dip, then double bottom, then Bitcoin comes down to retest this 80, 81K area, this trend line essentially, and that would actually give us a shoulder, head, shoulder, right? Inverse shoulder, head, shoulder, and then boom, we would take off from there. Let's just do a hypothetical. If that does happen, then it goes from 74 to 92 or 91.8. That would give us a 17.5 projected length. So if we do 17.5 from here, that would get us to exactly 109K. So if it does play out this head and shoulders and it breaks this neckline again at 92K, then we would basically be heading to 109K. That would be the target, right? That would be the target. And yeah, that would be really interesting to see what happens if Bitcoin was to get there. Okay, thank you for your time, folks. It's been lovely, a pleasure. I'll catch you guys next episode.